Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here, back in the UK, back in front of the blue wall, no blue sea anymore. I preferred the blue sea. I wish I was in front of the blue sea, but I'm back. Absolute long haul flight back, so I am on absolutely running on fumes right now. 23-hour flight back from Sydney, with a little hour stop to refuel in Singapore on the way back. Obviously, don't cry for me. I had a great holiday. It was absolutely fine. But a 23-hour flight in all was a new experience. My goodness. Stranger thing I found is that your face dries out because it must be the aircon thing. My wife and I were both at the end, kind of mummified essentially by the end of it all. That was a very strange experience. But yeah, back in the UK. Once again, got to watch the match in the early morning, although it wasn't too bad this time. It was 6 AM rather than 5 AM. I'm very aware the Australian people that follow me have very quickly pointed out to me, in a nice way, that me saying, oh, I'm up at 5 and 6 AM to watch the Spurs matches, that's great for them. That's a good time for them, you know. If they get, I guess Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs and things like that, afternoon kickoffs are an absolute nightmare for them. Whereas a late night kickoff, at least it kind of flips back round to the next morning. But yeah, so I don't know whether I'm coming or going right now. I may say some strange things during this. I may occasionally call Postecoglou Pochettino, especially with the Chelsea match coming up. But I'm going to try and plough through it all. And as always, like I always say, if I'm not at the game, I'll try and analyse it in as much depth as I can from watching on a very small screen on my phone. At 6 AM, lying in bed with all the curtains closed, completely pitch black, so I didn't wake up my wife. I even had little earphones in to listen to it. It was not the ideal experience, but it was still an interesting game to kind of watch, and you could see plenty of little facets of it that were really interesting. And most of all, Tottenham Hotspur is still top of the table. I had a couple of people telling me, stay out there, we're top of the table while you're gone. They were top of the table when I left, I should stress. They were doing absolutely fine while I was here in the country. Cue it all going horribly wrong now I'm back. But I should just say, just straight off the bat, before I crack straight on with all the Spurs stuff, just thank you very much to everyone that kind of reached out to me when I was in Australia and Singapore, and the very nice people I met out there, people that recognised me and said hello. I had some very kind of strange little moments. I had a couple of South Korean Spurs fans in Singapore when I was in the, I can't remember what it's called now, it's like a cloud dome or something. It was a very cool place to go in. It's all done up like Avatar at the moment. Even the border guard, security guard, just as I was getting on the plane in Singapore, was a Spurs fan and started asking me Spurs transfer stuff. It was a bit like, it's October. It's a little bit early for that. But it was very much appreciated. And very nice people across Australia. And even today, landing a couple of people. Even the National Express coach driver who brought me back to Stansted Airport was a Spurs fan who was aware of my stuff. It was all very nice. And again, all those many people that sent me messages on various social media platforms asking to meet up for a beer and all of that. I'm just sorry I couldn't kind of, if the ones I did see, just sorry I couldn't do that. I was on a holiday with my wife. And as you know from the last video, I did a fair bit of the Postecoglou trail, and I didn't want to push it by then kind of meeting up with other Spurs fans. I had to have a bit of a proper holiday. So again, right, Spurs. Still top of the table, Selhurst Park. As always, you know it's a tough place to go. I'd say, 80–90% of the results at Selhurst Park are narrow results. There was a real kind of spate of 1-0s to Spurs there, and obviously this one by a single goal, although yeah, I think it probably should have been by the 2 goals myself, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Roy Hodgson's sides especially, really well drilled teams, always incredibly organised. You know what you're going to get from them. They're going to be set up very well at the back, they're going to be a threat from set pieces, but they're also going to have a little bit of attacking flair on the break as well. And you know what? It wasn't pretty at times, but Spurs went there and did exactly what they needed to do. It was a very mature performance. It was, look, I'm not going to go all out and say it's the kind of performance title challengers put in if they want to win it, because we're not going down that route yet. It's way too early. But it is a sign of a good team that they can go somewhere like that and put in a performance like that, which I did feel was really professional. I didn't feel they blew Palace away, apart from in possession stakes. Especially the first half wasn't amazing. But I did feel they went there and did exactly what they needed to do. And there were some very, very good performances amongst it all as well. And, you know, they had a half-time team talk, I'm sure, from Postecoglou did the trick. And also appeared to be a bit of a discussion going on in the tunnel before they came out for the second half as well. The Spurs players kind of really trying to put things to right. I'll just give you some stats from the game very quickly. 76% possession for Spurs, which is just ridiculous, isn't it? Away from home as well. It just shows you the new Tottenham. I love it. I love it so much. I really do. Look, let's be honest. We all hate the games where, yeah, there was the occasional really exhilarating game, but on the whole, no one likes to see their team just sitting back there, hoping to make a break and get something out of it. And that was what Spurs had kind of become. So to see a Spurs side that we now know is just going to have the ball, it's going to probe, it's going to look for openings and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes it's going to be difficult. They're not always going to find them, as we saw on Friday night. There were times when you kind of like, you know, again, these stats will show you they only had one shot on target, which would have been the goal as well. So it's not going to always bring the openings, but I always feel if you have more of the ball, you're at least more likely to score. It's not definite, but it's kind of there, isn't it? It's logical. It's not the greatest analysis. You're not going to see that in any kind of groundbreaking and kind of things there. So 76% possession. They had 666 passes, which is quite a devilish number, to Palace's 147. 91% pass accuracy to Palace's 67. 10 shots on goal to Palace had more. They had 13. Like I said, one shot on target, Sonny's goal, to Palace's 3 on target. And I also thought, strange little number, Spurs only had 2 corners, to Palace had 11 corners. And it showed you that, you know, I think Spurs had to defend really well as well at times. Vicario had to make a couple of saves. Sam Johnson, the other goal, didn't make any at all. Obviously, it's not to say the ball didn't go past him twice, but he didn't have any saves to make. And also another interesting little number, Spurs made 23 clearances to Palace's 11. So it kind of shows, I think the thing I'll take away from the stats, and yes, we know stats don't tell everything about a game, but I do think what you can take from that is that Spurs did the dirty work really well. They did the nitty-gritty, the kind of stuff that maybe they don't always do. And this is something about Spurs that has always been quite a historical thing, I think, is that sometimes when they go to teams where maybe you'd think, yeah, it's a tough one, that, but, you know, on paper they should really beat them, often Spurs have gone there and not done that. You know, Spurs, a couple of years back, lost 3-0. That was under Nuno, wasn't it? Was that the one where Jaffet got sent off? I think it was. And yeah, there's no guarantee with Spurs that they're going to go and do these things. Whereas you feel right now that Spurs are going to find a way and they're going to fight and they're going to do all the stuff that most flair teams don't like to do. They're going to battle for every ball, win every individual duel and stuff like that. It's the old cliches. It's all the things that everyone would tell you makes a good team. But with Tottenham, maybe why they haven't always been a good team, because they haven't done the dirty work with the flair stuff. And it just felt like this was one of those matches where you saw the players all fighting for each other as a unit as well as individually, and they come away with the 3 points. A little bit nervy towards the end. I loved seeing James Maddison on the bench, like biting his nails and essentially living life like a Spurs fan just for a little bit on the bench. But they got there in the end. They did. And Guesty, in my absence, asked Ange Postecoglou what he liked about the performance. And he said, pretty much all of it. I just really like the way we handled it tonight. It's a difficult venue. They're a very well-drilled team defensively. And going into it, I knew it wasn't going to be... that's just my place. Going into it, I knew it wasn't going to be an open game and weren't going to get bags of chances. I really liked the way the boys handled it. They were patient and consistently tried to find the gaps in the way we spoke about, and real composure once we got ahead to control the game. Obviously, there was a bit of drama at the end, but even then, I thought the lads handled it really well today. It was a different challenge for us tonight, and I really liked the way we went about it. So in terms of the team, I don't think there's anywhere really for me to start. Some might argue. Mickey van der Ven was superb. I'm going to talk about him as well. But for me, I just want to start with Pat Matar. Oh my goodness, Pat Matar. What a player he is becoming and going to be. There's a lot of players in that team right now that kind of excite me about their potential and just how good they're going to be. Pat Sarr is right up there amongst them. I can't believe he's 21, honestly. I hate to kind of go down the route of, oh, you know, other clubs get this, other clubs get that. But I do feel a bit with Pat Sarr. If he played for one of the established elite, as it were, or even, let's say, a Brighton who are known for kind of producing these superstars, I think everyone would be going mad about Pat Sarr. But maybe the fact that it's Spurs, it's a bit like, oh yeah, that's the Spurs midfield, and they'll have Sarr, Maddison and Basuma play there. And maybe people aren't really recognising just how good Pat Sarr is becoming. And yes, I'm going to say all three names every time because I love it. I'm not really going to say every one of the three names. But I'll give you his stats, right? 92 touches, more than any other midfielder on the pitch. He made 75 passes with an 89.3 pass success rate. And bear in mind, Sarr is quite progressive as well. He's not one of those where, let's say, like a Basuma. I know Basuma definitely can be progressive, but a lot of his play will start off in the defensive side of the pitch, and there'll be a lot of short, snappy, quick passes. A bit like Højbjerg does as well. Whereas with Sarr, I do feel that a lot of his work is kind of really progressive and getting the ball forward quite quickly. So to have an 89.3% pass success rate from that, I think is quite impressive. He made 1 dribble, 2 interceptions, 2 clearances, 1 block he made on a Palace shot. And of course, he was involved in both of the goals with really clever movement and really clever use of the ball as well. And factor in as well that against Fulham, not only a few days back, he was ill, but he still wanted to play. And, you know, they had to take him off eventually. But, yeah, I just can't believe he's 21. And I think it's a massive thing, a testament to his displays right now, that Rodrigo Bentancur has come back. And we're going to talk about him in a bit as well. He's come back, and I think we all just assumed, well, he'll come in for Sarr. It's not that. It's not a given anymore, and that's brilliant. That shows the competition, you know. You'd think, looking at that, it really should be Maddison, Basuma, Bentancur, that midfield. Sarr is doing everything to suggest that why? Why should that be the case? And I think it's going to take Bentancur a little while. And I think that's actually a good thing because it means that there's no pressure to throw him back in. He's going to take his time. He's had an incredibly serious injury, out for 8 months or so, and he's going to need time to get back to his best. And Sarr's performances allow him to kind of continue to do that in little kind of increasing game time, I think, as the weeks go on. And then it's a fight. It's a fight between all of them. And I think the thing with Bentancur as well, Bentancur could also really play as a number 6, I kind of feel. So you've got him. Sarr and Basuma, I think, know that they're being pushed. I think probably Maddison is the one right now who maybe doesn't have a massive kind of presence pushing him. I mean, he's pushing himself right now, which is fantastic. Probably Lo Celso is the one who maybe could play in that role as a playmaker type. Bentancur could maybe do it. I wouldn't rule out Bentancur being able to play that role when he's fully fit and firing, because we've seen him as a more attacking midfielder before his injury, and he can do that. But right now, yeah, I think Basuma and Sarr are the two that will be challenged by him. But Sarr is doing everything to say, hello, this is my shirt, this is my position in the team, and I'm going to be playing week in, week out right now because there's no reason for you to drop me. Yeah, he was, I mean, the first goal, linked up with Porro down the right, pulled it back. It got a bit of a deflection into the path of Maddison, obviously smashed it down, and then Ward knocked it into his own goal. And then second goal, he got the ball on the right-hand side. Oh, it was a lovely move. It was such a lovely move all the way out from the back. And when Sarr got it, he just spanned the ball out, cross-field ball, you know, with the eye and kind of radar of someone so much older. Johnson heads it on. Maddison takes the ball, flicks it inside to Johnson's very clever, quick run. He turns it inside, and of course, Sonny is there to knock that ball into the net. Honestly, one of the goals of the season for me so far. I just think it was superb. It really was superb. I just still can't believe he's 21. It's mad. Here's what Ange said about Pep. He said, Pep was outstanding today, just with his work rate. In games like this, it's persistence that will get the result. We had to be persistent sometimes, making runs when you don't get the ball, but waiting for that opportunity when you do. Pep got into that area, and it was a great setup for the first goal, and we scored a similar second goal. A real great focus by the lads to stick to our principles and get the job done. So you might remember me telling you pre-season, kind of going into the season, prepare yourselves to see a lot of low balls into the box from square, kind of out wide. Because that was all we saw out in Singapore and Perth, and also Bangkok as well, in the training before the game that never was against Leicester. All they do in training, all they were doing in training sessions, was defence would actually not take part. They would just get, the wingers would go down the sides, all wing backs, and they would cut the ball in for whoever the central striker, either Sonny, Richarlison or Kane back then. And yes, I saw Kane's hat-trick and his lovely own half goal. I still feel like the one he did against Chesney in pre-season was a better one, I think. I'm trying to remember it, but I kind of feel like that one was one of the best goals I'd seen. But anyway, back to the training. Yeah, every single one. They really didn't concentrate on balls high into the box whatsoever. It was always get to the byline, pull it back, or get to the kind of halfway mark of the penalty area down the sides and cut it across. And I've probably said this before, I think I definitely actually did say it before, it was always going to benefit Sonny, because Sonny is okay in the air. You know, he's not like a big, he's not like maybe Richarlison or Kane in the air, but he will get you the odd-headed goal. But what Sonny is so brilliant at is picking out that little movements into the box, maybe slightly undetected. And I always kind of felt that this low crossing game was going to suit him, like, you know, down to the ground. And so it proved to be, or so it has proved to be. I mean, he's got eight goals already now in the Premier League, and the way he's going, it's going to be a 20-goal season for him in the Premier League alone, I think. And both goals Friday night, both came from kind of balls into the box. Sarr knocking it into Maddison, low balls into the box, and then Johnson into Son. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how teams over the course of the season try to counter that, how to stop those low balls in, because it's probably harder to stop that than it is to stop balls just slung into the box going in high. Because the beauty is with the low crosses is you can overload, and you can pull a ball back to the edge of the area. You can get midfielders steaming into doing it. Presuming that is why Postecoglou does that, because he, it gives you so many different options to score goals as well. And again, as I said previously with the Fulham game, I love the fact that this Spurs side is still not firing on all cylinders, especially up front. They still aren't quite getting the movement the Postecoglou way quite right yet, and that will come. And I think, I'm excited to see what even little kind of additions, like Brian Hill, he made his first, got his first minutes of the season. Even little things like what's he going to provide when he comes in as well. Brendan Johnson, we'll talk about him, but him flying there with his pace, I think he's going to have a big season at Spurs. If he can stay clear of injuries, he's going to have a big season at Spurs. And I still feel like in January, yes, they're going to bring in another centre-back, but I do wonder whether they look at more attacking options. And obviously, we've got Velise as well. It'd be interesting to see how Velise, with more development and what he can do up front. I do think attacking-wise, there's more kind of tinkering that he can do with it. I'm intrigued to see what the best three is going to end up being. But yeah, back to Sarr. Brilliant performance for me. So excited about what that young man is going to become as a footballer. And I just love the fact we don't entirely know what he's going to become as a footballer. I think that's really exciting as well. Where else? Start the back. Vicario again. But Vicario on both centre-backs I thought was superb again. Vicario, he denied Ayew early on. He denied Edouard as well early on. He didn't really have that much to do other than those two moments, and then late on that Ayew goal, which, yeah, I don't know why it made it sound like an airplane flying low over your head in the Second World War. But, hey, I was watching on a tiny little phone screen on the other side of the world, but to me it looked like a handball. It looked like the ball changed direction. It looked like by using his arm, Ayew, he kind of was able to knock it into his path so that he could hit it on the bounce. I do understand the line of thinking that, was it enough to suggest a clear and obvious error? Because the angles were inconclusive in some aspects. but I kind of felt like one of the angles they kept showing did look like he controlled it and pushed it. My arm's on the screen, so you can't even see it, but he did kind of feel like he pushed it forward. And yes, by the way, if you've ever been away for a couple of weeks, you know that when you get back, you absolutely have run out of all of your clean clothes. So you end up kind of just looking deep down into drawers and wearing whatever. So apologies for wearing a really kind of old grey Wayne Enterprises t-shirt that is almost knackered on its last legs. Okay, last legs is t-shirt, last sleeves. But yeah, stupid diversion that was. What was I talking about? Yes, the handball. Even on a tiny screen, it looked like it was to me. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure we're probably slightly biased because obviously I cover Spurs, you guys support Spurs, but it did. There was one angle that for me looked like he kind of nudged it into his path with his arm. But I just thought Vicario, just again, another performance from him. It couldn't do anything about it. There was a lovely strike. Once IU had got the handball out of the way, which wasn't, apparently, I thought the strike was fantastic. There was nothing really Vicario could have done about that. But I love the fact he's starting to get a lot of praise now. I think people are starting to realise how good he is. I'd like everyone at Spurs to still stay under the radar, but I do also like people getting a little bit of recognition, I guess, for the way they've done, the way it started, and the confidence that brings as well. Sonny was talking about Vicario afterwards. He said, "Before we scored, without Vic's saves, we are going behind. And when you go behind in this stadium, you know what's going to happen. So I think big credit to Vic for making unbelievable saves. I'm enjoying every single moment with him because he made a good save. He's playing out well, and it's fantastic to have him behind the goal. But behind in the goal, I think he means." It was probably just a missing word there. Obviously, any game we're going to face chances and shots on target. When you have Vic behind us, you're just very comfortable. He's going to make unbelievable saves, which he did. Big credit to Vic today. And also the way he plays with his feet is fantastic. It brings so much to the team. And I'm very happy to have him in the team. And again, I've said this before, but it kind of, you can't get away from the fact that it just feels like Lloris was a brilliant servant to Tottenham Hotspur. 11 years, fantastic kind of servant for everything he did for Spurs as a captain as well. But you just kind of feel that Vicario is the right man in the right moment for this Postecoglou team. He just ticks every box of a Postecoglou keeper. And yeah, he's just incredibly hungry, ambitious, wants to learn, but he's also got the skill set. Every little box ticked. Really, and he's only going to get better as well. He's still a relatively young goalkeeper. Was he 26, maybe 27 now? Might still be 26. But yeah, I like it. And just, as I've said, having interviewed him before, he's just such a nice guy. Incredibly nice guy, incredibly strong character, and he's a fighter. His career shows he's a fighter, and yeah, he's going to do good things for Spurs. There's going to be odds, little kind of ups and downs. All goalkeepers have them, even the best. But I think, yeah, he's going to be something special at Tottenham for years to come. He's really got the potential to do that. And I love every little quote you read from him talking about coming to Spurs and how desperate he was to come to Spurs. That's what you want. And that's what resonated with Postecoglou when he signed him as well. Postecoglou makes a real thing of, speaking to every single player before they come in the door and making that final decision, as all managers should. And, he spoke at the time of just getting these vibes off of Vicario that he was ready for it. He was hungry for it. And so it's proved. He's been one of the players of maybe is the best goalkeeper this season in the Premier League. I think the stats bear that out. I was about to kind of suggest that, but I think the stats say he is. So no arguing with that. And what I quite liked was he actually had a really good view of the second goal that Spurs scored, and on the Spurs play, he told the guys on that in the club interview, he said, "I think our second goal was a top masterclass of football from the back. You find a spare man and then Sonny, attacks the right space. It's easy for him to come to the back and score this kind of goal. It's a big situation we work on during the week, so we're happy for that. And we have to keep going, keep improving on that because we can do it. Of course, we can enjoy the win. We take the rest of the week and then we go again." And everything comes from Vicario's distribution. Honestly, he gets the ball out so quickly to them. And there was a lovely kind of moment where, lovely for everyone connected with Spurs, not so much for Palace, where Vicario and Romero were just passing the ball back and forward to each other. It was later in the game, and because Palace had decided they were going to press, but only in certain areas and not go all the way up to Vicario. And it was really fascinating because there was a point where Romero and Vicario just realised, we're 2-0 up at this point, and they're not going to come and challenge us. Let's just pass the ball back and forward until they do. Because that's the point of playing the way Postecoglou wants them to play. And this is why, obviously, Hodgson decided to tell his players not to go all the way up. Because the moment you bring one or two players out to do the press that high up, Spurs get around you, you're suddenly outnumbered. And that's the beauty of it. And so they weren't doing that. But then that was getting on the crowd, were getting really annoyed because their players, they're thinking, why are you not going up there? Why are you not getting the ball? And they were getting more and more frustrated. Romero and Vicario to that, just passing the ball back and forward to each other. And, Spurs fans at 2-0, they don't care. At that point, yeah, of course, we'd love another goal. And, of course, it did get a bit nervy. But still, it's playing that game with the opposition, trying to just, like a cat and mouse kind of thing, trying to get them to slightly come out and then bang, you can spring the trap. But that did make me chuckle watching that from afar. Talking of Romero, another good performance from him. Got his stats: 1 tackle, 1 interception, 4 clearances and 1 shot he blocked. Van de Ven made 2 tackles and 4 clearances. The two of them, Romero made 151 passes, which I looked was way clear of anyone. The actual second person was Van de Ven, who made 97. So, I mean, what did I tell you the stats earlier? So, what I had it here, Palace's stats, I said 147 passes Palace made between them. Sorry, on his own, Romero made more than them. 151 on his own. And then Van de Ven came in with another 97. And Romero's passes, 93.4% success rate. Van de Ven of his 97, 99% success rate. I think only one of his passes didn't go to someone. Just for context, so you've got Romero 151 passes, Van de Ven 97, Anderson and Gay at the other end 33 and 27 passes. Again, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it just shows you how dominant Spurs were with the ball. It's just incredible and how much they had the ball. Van de Ven, Romero, it's well on the way. It's got a bit of work to do yet, but it is well on the way to becoming the next Alderweireld Vertonghen. It really is. Complement each other beautifully. The yin and yang of it all. The one aggressive one, the very calm one. The one with... actually, I was about to say one who can ping a crossfield ball, but they're both very capable of that. And I love the fact that they're working as a unit now. They're really starting to understand each other, with Vicario behind them as well, sweeping up. And there was one moment where Anderson did a bit of a bad tackle on Brian Hill, and the two of them charged out towards Anderson. Honestly, it looked like they were absolutely going to tear him apart because they were not happy that they put in that challenge. And I just love that. That's what you want. You want the team to be that close that they're all ready to battle for each other. Van de Ven, Romero. You talk about potential. That has got the potential to be one of the best partnerships. I'm going to say it. It's got the potential to be one of the best central defensive partnerships in Spurs history. It has, and that's high praise because we know how many there are, and it's very early days. I can already see people ready to type in the comments, "You can't say that now." It's very. I said potential. Very much so. They've got to stay fit. They've got to continue to work together. And definitely they're becoming almost too important in terms of you need another centre-back in there. Another top centre-back able to slot in there. Because we still don't know exactly how Eric Dyer is going to work in this system if he were to come in. Obviously, his contract situation appears to suggest he's not going to be here beyond the end of the season. They definitely need, for the future, you've got someone like Ashley Phillips or Alfie Dorrington. But yeah, that January window, I don't think it's any secret, and I'm sure Postecoglou would say the same, that they need to bring in another centre-back. So there's less fear, I think, if someone's goes in, they let Big Dav go. Davinson Sanchez went. So, yeah, but it is a very exciting one. Very exciting partnership. And I liked another little moment I saw that I liked was Maddison going up to Romero after the game and really like, giving this squeeze and like pointing to the badge on his chest and just like bashing his chest and doing the same to him as if just kind of saying like, you know, we are this club now. I just love it. This leadership group of Sonny Romero and Maddison, they're just epitomising what we want this Spurs team to be like, with skill, aggression, hunger, ambition, and all three of them. It's honestly, we've often spoken about leadership groups at Tottenham and things like that. And I don't want to serve any disrespect to anyone else that was involved in the captaincy, because everyone does things their own different ways. But it just feels right now, as a unit, this trio is so strong as a captaincy. You might say that they've been fortunate in terms of they haven't really had any kind of negative stuff to really galvanise the group from yet. And that obviously is there to come. There will be moments when they're going to need to do that. You know, they've only really had the Fulham Cup exit thus far. And obviously 2 or 3 of them were not involved in that. They didn't start that game. And that'll be the test for them. But right now, they're working as a kind of a trident, as it were, 3 of them, a trio, to really kind of spearhead this new look Tottenham, this new look Spurs. And it's yeah, I love watching the way they're acting, and even I saw I don't know whether I saw it not long after I landed, so I don't know whether it was in the aftermath of the game, whether it was at the weekend, because they might have had a little spare time. But I saw there was some kind of dinner party. Again, I could get that completely wrong. It could be a dinner party from another time, but it's all the Spurs players there, so tight-knit together. Maddison taking the mickey out of people. Sarr being hugged by everyone as it's like the kid of the group, even though, you know, he's so advanced for his years, kind of thing. And it's what we connect to. We said this back in the Pochettino days, when the team's kind of this young, tight-knit family group, the fans can identify with them more. They identify with players that feel like they're giving everything for each other and the club badge. It's when they feel like they're not, that's when you start to get that distance. And when you have a manager that maybe creates a them and us scenario, whereas with Postecoglou, it's not. It's everyone in it together. It's all doing the trick right now. It's great to watch. So yeah, centre-backs I thought fantastic again. In terms of the full-backs, Davies struggled. Davies didn't have a great day at the office at all. That was really difficult for him to come in. It showed the gap between him and Udogie at the moment. Udogie, who there's some little confusion over it, because I've listened back to the post-match presser after Fulham, and it definitely sounds like Postecoglou said tiredness, feeling a bit of tiredness. Honestly, I've listened to it back a million times. Guess he sent me the audio as well, because he said it sounds exactly like tiredness. And it does, but I think it's tightness. So it must have been a little bit of muscle tightness, because I can't imagine he would have then missed this game entirely with a bit of tiredness, because he would have probably been on the bench. So yeah, a little bit of muscle tightness. And Davies kind of had to come in, and yeah, he wasn't able to produce the same kind of performance that we see from Udogie. And that's going to be it for him about adapting as well. In a tough time with IU, Van der Ven kept kind of having to not bail him out, but just be there to back him up a lot with his pace. Yeah, it wasn't... Again, I'm very loath to take a pop at players that have had to come into a team after not really having got many minutes under the belt, because we've seen this so many times when players don't look sharp, they don't look great when they first come in, but then they get a little run and suddenly they fit things nicely. So I'm not going to have too much of a pop at Davies, but just, yeah, not one of his best days at the office. In contrast, Emerson came in, did really well. Obviously, Emerson's had a little bit of game time, didn't he? Because I said that in the last video. I said I wondered why Davies didn't come in, and he wasn't in because I think he had a little knock from training or something, didn't he? That was an interesting thing that I read about that afterwards, that apparently Postecoglou was saying that, you know, training, I think we knew this, training is full on. It's like, Romero probably loves training because it's very much like match situation. They go in strong, they go in as they train as they play, relentless and with that bit of aggression. And I think Ben Davies was a bit of a casualty of that, and maybe that played a part as well. Maybe he wasn't fully ready and sharp to come into this game, but take nothing away from Emerson. Came in, I thought he did really well on the left, and that's a great option to have on the left, especially if the doggy's not ready. You would think that after almost, I know it will be 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks to that next Monday against Chelsea, you'd think he'd be ready. But no, I was pleased with Emerson, or pleased for him, not pleased with him, not his dad, or pleased for him. I don't know, maybe they're both something that his dad would be very pleased with him. His dad's a character. If you find him on Instagram, his dad is a character. Emerson made 3 tackles, 3 clearances. Davies had 1 and 2 clearances in his half. But Emerson also got forward, had a shot and a dribble as well. And he likes going into that number 10 role. I feel like that's the part that Davies maybe would take a bit more of adjusting to than the other players. He's kind of used to either playing as very much a solid left back or coming inside as the left-sided centre-back in a 3. But to then come really inside and play as a bit of a number 10 role, that's probably something that's really alien to him. And yeah, that's probably the part of it that didn't quite work for him as well. On the other side, Porro had a bit of a mixed game. He had, his stats show he got 6 tackles and 1 clearance, but he was definitely caught out for the goal. Mistimed his jump, over his head to Ayew, regardless of whether it was a bit of an iffy controlling of the ball. But what I did think Porro did very well was late on he made a really last-gasp challenge. I can't remember who it was on now, but he made a last-gasp kind of attempt at a block, which, well, I don't think he got the ball because it went for a goal kick. It was enough to put the player off to shoot over the bar. So, yeah, it kind of made amends with that because that could have been far worse for Spurs. But yeah, Porro, I think the fullbacks were maybe, Emerson aside, were okay. They were okay. I felt like the centre-backs and Vicario probably got more of the credit, and deservedly so, I think. Further up the pitch, Bissouma back in there, of course. He was okay. I wouldn't say that was one of his best performances. Maybe in the back of his mind, not wanting to get another yellow card, which would rule him out of the Chelsea game, perhaps. But I thought Højbjerg came on and did well when he came on for him. Another good little kind of cameo from him. Like I say, lots of options now in the centre of that midfield. Lots of players that can come in there and do a different kind of job to each other. And that's something Postecoglou always says. It's not always about changing your formation or tactics. It's often about bringing in a different player that will bring a different style and a different way of playing a game. So Højbjerg will bring something very different to Bissouma. Bentancur will bring something very different to Bissouma and Højbjerg. And it's the same up front. We'll talk about the 3 up front in a moment. But, you know, they are such differing options up there as well. Richarlison and Johnson, for example, very, very different players. And they'll give you something completely different regardless of who's playing. So, depending on who's playing, not regardless. But Maddison, I thought Maddison had another game where he was just involved in big moments. You know, had the shot that Ward could only put into his own net. Then he had the lovely timed ball. It's a lovely move, start to finish, the second goal. But I love the timing of the pass from Maddison into Johnson's run. And I think we're going to see that a lot. I think Brendan Johnson's pace is going to provide so many opportunities for Maddison to play those lovely little outside of the foot passes around the defence or over the defence. And yeah, Johnson, if he is ready to make those runs, and with Sonny, that's a double threat in terms of people that can run beyond the defence, and Maddison's going to pick them out probably, you know, 7 or 8 times out of 10. Oh, the rain is pouring down outside. That was the biggest shock stepping off the plane. Was coming back from Australia. Even Australia's kind of rubbish weather in Sydney was still like 18, 19 degrees, little bit of rain and wind. I got out here, it was like 8 degrees. Ah, the UK. I digress, as I often do. But Maddison, yeah, he was so good. So good. He did have an early chance to score as well. Richarlison headed the ball back to him and he kind of sliced his volley over. He probably should have done better with that. But it's very difficult to criticise James Maddison right now. He's been phenomenal. On the ball, off the ball with his work rate, on the pitch and off the pitch with his leadership as well. Phenomenal player. And, you know, I like the fact now that despite they've come through this week where the games were a little bit clustered closer together with the Monday, Friday night games. But what now the result is that you play Friday night and now they've got all that time until Monday have a little bit of time to rest up, recover, and, you know, they'll go into that match, you'd imagine, pretty super fresh, really. They should be, with, what is that, 9, 10 days? That's a big old gap in between them. You know, and I know you could argue Chelsea have got the midweek game against Blackburn in the old Carabao, but you would think that would be heavily rotated. But still, there'll be a few players there. Spurs should be the fresher team going. I know Chelsea have got a squad of about 73 players, so they shouldn't have to use anyone for that game. But maybe after their defeat against Brentford, maybe Pochettino will want to just get a bit of momentum back into their play, maybe. So it could work in that way as well. But yeah, Maddison good, Basuma okay, going further up the pitch. Richarlison and Kulusevski both had really nice moments, but both probably struggled just to do enough in that final third for me. Richarlison had some nice touches. He also had some awful touches. Kulusevski, I felt he was better in the second half than he was the first. The thing with Kulusevski is you just kind of feel with him that he's always got the potential to do something very dangerous that's going to bring about something, whereas Richarlison can go quite quiet for periods. And obviously Kulusevski's kind of work rate and running is also a constant problem. Richarlison, I still don't think he's found exactly how he needs to play in this Postecoglou system. It'll come. You know, we weren't sure whether it was century, weren't sure where it was left, weren't sure exactly how he was going to profit from the way that Postecoglou's teams work. But again, I think I go back to what I said before. It's about just differing options. You know, you bring Richarlison into a game if you want that little bit of, I guess, someone that can hold the ball up with their back to the opposition goal, someone that can cause a problem in the air, someone that can just be a bit of a nuisance compared to the other players. But yeah, I still think I stand by my original statement way back that for a £60 million player, still not scoring enough goals for me. But Kulusevski is falling into that at the moment as well. Look, Kulusevski probably does more off the ball that's noticeable, but both of them, I think, they just need to up their numbers. And I think that at the moment is why the attack isn't absolutely flying right now. Because I seriously believe when this Postecoglou team is in its full flow, you're going to be seeing 3-0, 4-0. You're going to be getting some big scorelines. But right now, it's kind of everyone's having to chip in with the goals in the other areas of the pitch. And up front, it kind of feels like it's all on Sonny. And the others will come. As for Sonny, yeah, again, he can kind of afford to be quiet in moments because, and I think a lot of that was down to the service, getting him in the ball. He only touched the ball 29 times in the game. That's not enough, really. But he just showed that one moment he can get. And it was a really nice finish from Johnson's pass. 8 goals, 10 games in the Premier League. Yeah, superb. Superb. You know, he's going to push Haaland. I think he will. I think he really, really will. Haaland, we know, is a goal machine, and City are going to create a lot of chances for him. I'm recording this before all of these Sunday matches kick off, so it may well be that Haaland goes on and scores a handful of goals in the Manchester derby. But yeah, Sonny's going to have a great season. Brennan Johnson, for me, again, another exciting cameo. He's still got to get his fitness levels up, of course, get his sharpness. But even in just that little bit of time, created 2 chances for the team, successful with 7 of his 8 passes, won 2 tackles, and contributed defensively with 3 defensive actions. So down that left-hand side, he was just doing so much. He was contributing at both ends of the pitch, and just, it's his pace for me. I still go back to the goal that was ruled out that he scored on his debut when he came off the bench. And that, for me, is where you're going to see the best of Johnson, just ghosting in behind defences. And the run for the second goal, to get his first assist for Spurs as well, it was just a lovely timed run. And Maddison, when you've got someone with the intelligence of Maddison to pick out that pass, the ability to pick out that pass as well, oh, he's going to profit so much. For me, it's only right now, fully fit, I feel like Johnson, Son and Kulusevski's the 3. Is maybe the best 3. Again, different players work in different matches. I understand that completely. But for me, I think the different things that those three players do excites me. You've got Sonny and Johnson with their pace, ability to run in behind, both of them with a kind of striker's instinct in them as well, I think. And Kulusevski's a different kind of player, more of a kind of a skill and strength combined, a bit of a battering ram as well, and the ability to swing the ball into the box. That, you know, that could be a trio that scores a lot of goals. And then it's up to Richarlison and Brad Hill and Valise as he continues to develop to push that even further. Yeah, and even, you know, Lo Celso could end up getting minutes further up the pitch. We'll see. But yeah, I was pleased with Johnson's little kind of cameo. And Guesty asked Postecoglou about Johnson as well. He said, yeah, Brennan was great. He's had to be patient as he's had a couple of setbacks, obviously, so we haven't really seen him in any consistent game time or training time. But the last couple of weeks, he's worked hard in training. I thought all the subs who came on, I thought Pierre helped us get control of the midfield. I thought Emerson at left back was outstanding. Those kind of things are helping us at the moment. And the guys coming on and helping us see out games. And then we had the return of Rodrigo Bentancur, which was so lovely. Obviously been out since the start of February, that ACL injury at Leicester. Oh, I remember just being there and hearing the screams. It was horrible. Just knew something awful had happened. Worked incredibly hard. They said, kind of, Postecoglou said November he felt, and here we are. You know, October hasn't finished and he's back out there. That's testament to his incredibly hard work. And do you know what? I thought it was quite fitting that his old Juventus teammate Kulusevski was coming off for him to come on. I don't think I've ever seen a player so happy to come off. And it's not because he wanted to come off. It was because he knew who was coming on for him. He had a big grin, Kulusevski. And it was such a big cheer from the away fans. You could hear it. Even on my little phone, you could hear it. Of Bentancur coming on. It meant so much. It was the end of a long and difficult road for Bentancur. And it was just fantastic to see him back out there. 89th minute, and I think the fact that they ended up getting so much added time was probably a bit of a surprise as well. So he had a bit of a run out there. He had, I think, where did I get it? I think he only touched the ball 7 times. Let's have a look. I've got it here. No, I haven't got it here, but I have a feeling the number was something like 7 times. And he immediately got a touch of the ball because they knocked a quick short free kick to him. So that was great. He just kind of got the touch of it as well. And yeah, what was even lovely was when the game finished was that he had this lovely moment in front of the away fans. He went over with the team and then I think it was Basuma first pushed him in front of them. So he had his own little moment. That was lovely. And then when that had happened and he did they just all gathered round him. They were all kind of just hugging him. It was just a perfect moment to just kind of represent. I could imagine he probably got quite emotional as well, because, you know, I don't know. I haven't been in that position. What it must be like to come back from, you know, what's approaching a year, isn't it? It's 3/4 of a year or so out of the game, and you probably fear. You fear whether you're going to come back the same. You fear whether you're even going to come back. Maybe. I remember Eric Lamela used to speak about this when he had his issues and the problems and the fears of would he even make it back on a football pitch. We have so many players that don't, and just to be able to do that was just superb. It was brilliant. And I think Sonny said he kind of got a little bit emotional as well. He said after the game, it made me smile, as in when he saw him coming back on. What an unbelievable player. Having him in our squad is like a new signing. We couldn't wait to have him back. And when he came on today, I was getting emotional because he's a good friend of mine. And then I enjoy every single moment, even last year when I suffered with the injury, as he was always pushing behind me. I'm just really grateful that he came back healthy, and I hope he doesn't get injured anymore so that he can stay fit and help the team. It's a massive boost for the team, and I'm very, very happy to have him back. Postecoglou also praised both him and Bryan Hill coming back. He said, great to have both guys back, get them back. Roddy, I like that. Roddy has been out for so long. He's worked so hard to get back in group training, and great to get him some minutes today. He'll get stronger from this, and it's great for us as we have another quality player in the group. He's a class player. You know, I think we all hope he'll get back to that kind of how good he was, because what he was was one of the best players at Tottenham. He was the game changer for Spurs. He and Kane last season were the players that were driving them through matches. And that was why it was, Conte, you may well argue that had Bentancur not got injured, it probably would have been a very different end to the season, because he was that important. He was scoring late goals. He was popping up in big moments in big games. And he was developing into this incredible kind of all-round midfielder as well. And just, honestly, the thought of him, if he can get back to full throttle in a Postecoglou team, oosh, it could be very, very exciting. And even right now, with Spurs playing so well, but knowing you've then got the quality of someone like Bentancur to come off the bench as games need closing out now is going to be exciting. Knowing that he can get into these positions to not only score goals, but also to kind of help them out at one end as well. At one point, Bentancur was playing like a Dembele type. He was taking that ball, he was spinning away from players, he was using it brilliantly. He's doing a lot of the things that Bissouma's now doing. And this is why for him, he can operate at both ends. That's the exciting thing with Bissouma. He's doing great stuff in the Spurs kind of half and then in the approach play, but maybe isn't contributing in the final third as much as he probably could. Whereas with Bentancur, we know he can do both ends. It's very, very exciting when you've got that amount of options and things. And I saw his post. Bentancur did a post after the game on Instagram. He said, the recovery process has been very long and difficult, but thanks to the support of my amazing family, my friends, the club and the fans, I'm finally back and I couldn't be happier. Yesterday was a special day for me and now I just want to enjoy football, give my best and help my teammates who have been by my side every day and have been doing a fantastic job in this first part of the season. Thank you all. It was quite interesting. His partner, I'm not sure if it's his wife or not, she put a post which, because she included him in the post, it ended up going on Bentancur's profile. So obviously it suddenly goes out to almost 2 million people. And it was a really interesting post because it was a very nice post. It was lovely, kind of a real proud partner, proud family member kind of thing. But it also had a little bit of a pop at some people. I'm going to read it out to you. It's quite a long one, so bear with me. And it starts, some of it I'm not sure the translation is perfect, so apologies if it's not great. No need to say much. Why again you proved what you are capable of. And I get so much happiness and pride to see you there again. From minute one after surgery, you were preparing for this moment. 8 months completely dedicated to recovering, training and coming back stronger than ever. Know everything you sacrificed and worked to be here today. Obviously there were difficult days, although there are very few, because you were always there with that positivity that characterises you. It was always you who motivated us and somehow reassured us that everything was going to be fine. And this is the other bit. Unfortunately, there weren't always people with the same positivity as you. Unfortunately, the people who needed to push you forward the most often wanted to hold you back, with unprofessionalism as well. And though anger often appeared, we knew that when this moment came, you were going to show everything you were prepared long before. Thank you for teaching us so much all this time, because being close to you was a total learning experience, from napping in the hospital to running around together again, and personally from dreaming about this moment to today being able to see you come back again. So much happiness entering me. We love you so much, Daddy. You are without a doubt the best of all. And yes, that felt weird saying Daddy. But yeah, that paragraph is really interesting, and I wonder who it means. Unfortunately, there were always people with the same there weren't always people with the same positivity as you. Unfortunately, the people who needed to push you forward the most often wanted to hold you back, with unprofessionalism as well. It's big stuff. It's big stuff, that. And I do wonder who that means. I'm not going to speculate, because it could be anyone. It could be anyone in any position. It could be anyone maybe within his camp, in Tottenham. Who knows? But yeah, I wonder if that'll ever get clarified. It'd be interesting if we maybe get Bentancur for an interview at some point, whether he is willing to go into that or not. But overall, just great to have him back, because he is going to be a huge cog in this machine. And yeah, it just feels like it's going too well. It's they're doing so well. We're top of the league. I went away. I come back and they're in exactly the same position. They've taken a little run of games that could have tripped them up, and they haven't. There's more tough games to come, of course there are. Chelsea's going to be a big test. Obviously, Man City's on the horizon as well. Really not long until that comes along. Yeah, I mean, Villa's a tough one. Even Wolves away. Wolves are playing some good football right now. They're tripping up some teams as well. So that run, Chelsea, Wolves, Villa and Man City, that's not easy at all. And then straight after that, you've got London Derby against West Ham. You've got Newcastle at home. It's not a good run. Those 6 games in all, I'd say, are a tough bunch. But right now, you wouldn't bet against Spurs. Like I said, and I've said it a million times, to prepare myself, I think, more than anything, there's going to be times when it's not going to go right. It's a very young team in its kind of embryonic stage, and there's going to be games that they're going to kind of, not quite taught a lesson, but have to learn something from, I think. And that, you know, they could well be on the horizon. But yeah, like I say, I don't think I've seen a team this together at Spurs for a number of years. Definitely since the Pochettino era, and it is, I guess it's fitting that he and his Chelsea side are up next, and I'm still intrigued to see what reception he gets. I would hope that Spurs fans just excited with what's happening at Spurs right now, and they will acknowledge what Pochettino. See, there it goes. See what they'll acknowledge what Pochettino did for them. While knowing that they've got something very special in Postecoglou now. Oh my goodness. I'm starting to get really tired, as you can tell. It's going to be a noisy game. Jesus Perez, I think, can't be involved. I think I saw just before I started this, I didn't realise that he got red carded in the Brentford game. So Jesus Perez can't be back on the bench at this moment in time. At the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it will be Poch on his own with his coaching staff. Whether that plays a part, who knows? But yeah, it's a Spurs team coming into this really full of kind of good form and motivation, excitement, and the crowd are going to be so noisy as well for this London derby. They want to show, I think, that there's a real kind of changing the guard in London. I think that certainly in terms of Chelsea Spurs, I think that's what they'll be trying to show. Obviously, last season they finished above them as well, didn't they? Feels like honestly, pre-Postecoglou feels like a decade ago right now. It's so weird. I think that's a good thing as well. But yeah, it's going to be a huge match. It's going to be a thrilling match. It's got the potential to be a very open match as well, because we know what Pochettino teams are like. And he's not going to want his team to sit back and try and count on the break. He's going to want them to try and have possession. So it's going to be 2 teams looking to get the ball, 2 teams looking to get the ball up the pitch. And you just hope that Spurs maybe have gelled quicker than the Chelsea team has. 2 teams that are going to benefit from not having, too much midweek football in the weeks to come. Obviously, Chelsea do have that Carabao Cup game. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it all kind of plays out, and interesting when it comes to that midweek football stuff. I saw Pep talking about Spurs in the title race. Look at Tottenham, how well they're playing. They play 1 game a week. They will be fit throughout the season. Tottenham will be there. Ooh, I don't even want to think that far ahead. I'm just excited about the fact that how many points Spurs have already got. It gives them a great foundation to let's start a little bit below that. It gives them a great foundation to try to get a top 4 place. That's the start. And then let's see kind of where this snowballs, and who knows, because Ange was asked after the game on Friday night about, can the fans continue to dream and stuff like that. He came out with another one of his one-liners. He said, dreams last as long as they do until someone wakes you up. We'll just see. Hopefully no one wakes Spurs up or us Spurs fans. He said, top of the table is great and the results are great, but it's more in the manner we're doing it. Pretty much from the first game, we've had all sorts of different challenges we've had to overcome. Every time there's been a real focus and clear-headedness about the group collectively to deal with that. That has been a really pleasing thing, and because they're getting rewards from that, then that gives us an opportunity to accelerate the growth of giving them more tools out there to help them for whatever we need to overcome. I thought tonight was going to be a really difficult game for us coming here. Palace's result last week, it's a tight ground. They only conceded 3 goals in the 4 games so far here. And how were the lads going to cope with the fact that we weren't going to create as many chances as we had been? I really liked the way we worked through that as a group. And he was asked, how does he keep the players' feet on the ground? To which he said, I don't sense anyone sort of floating about the place. There's no reason for them to feel that way, because when they come in each day, they see the same thing. They see an environment where they know training is going to be hard, training is going to be competitive, and it doesn't allow you to think about anything other than having to be at their best every day to make sure they keep pushing themselves, pushing each other to get to where we want to. I think if you think about that stuff, you've probably had the wrong kind of people in your building. I don't sense that with this group. This group is very, very determined to keep working hard, keep improving, and they demand that of me, the coaching staff, and all the staff. I see no reason why that won't continue. And he was asked as well, do you enjoy being top or do you have to shut it out? He said, I don't think you would see me any different either way. I enjoy every day of it, and I want the players to enjoy every day of it. Not because we're top of the table, but because we're living the dream, mate. We're playing for a fantastic football club. We get to do what we love, and the rest of it is about honouring that responsibility that has been bestowed upon us. For me, what is important is we're giving our supporters some joy, some belief, and some hope. And that is what football clubs are there for. We need to keep feeding into that. I know I say praise the Lord a little bit too much recently, but my goodness, praise the Lord for a manager who just gets it, who is proud and excited to be the Tottenham Hotspur manager and knows that it's a privilege. Yeah, it's a club that's been a bit of a mess at times over the years, but it's Tottenham Hotspur. It is a special club. In many senses of the word, it really is. And I just love the fact that you can tell he's bursting with pride to be the manager of Spurs. And he's pushing that onto the players as well. And like I say, when I talk about Madison Romero, like beating the kind of their chests on the badge and just loving it, and the connection with the fans after the game, going over there. I saw Postecoglou saying about it's not a fortress right now. You know, it's a nightclub, and we want it to be. You know, they're all enjoying themselves. They're dancing at the end of the games with each other, the fans and the players. And again, Friday night, I saw Basuma conducting them when they were doing, you know, their little dance that they do at the moment. The fans and him, and it's long may it continue. It's very, very, I'm going to use the word again, exciting. Honestly, people have said this in the comments before about it's like night and day me doing these videos this season and last season. There's no sighing. There's just a genuine thrill and excitement at what this football club's doing right now. We've gone from a football club where it was very difficult to actually find positives in it towards the end of last season because it was such a mess. And now we're in it where there's actually so many positives, it's quite difficult to find negatives. The negatives are almost ones of fear of what if this happens, what if that were to happen. And, you know, they're going to build towards the January transfer window as well. And that's got to be an important one. That's going to be a biggie as well. It's got to be one where they get the right players in. You know, that structure now above is being sorted out. It is. And you know, you get the impression that Fabio Paratici will still not be too far from things. Johan Lang, of course, is in place. But I saw someone trying to do a video showing that Scott Munn and Paratici were together or something. I saw it very quickly. I think it was just before I boarded the plane. I don't know. It was a very whirring around video. I couldn't really tell who people were in it. But I wouldn't be stunned if Paratici is still involved in his consultancy role at Spurs as kind of the bridge between Johan Lang kind of stepping up in his role, because obviously he November the 1st, I think he starts officially, and with Scott Munn as well. And obviously there's so many kind of, I think the key thing now for Spurs and the most important thing about this January transfer window is it needs to be what Postecoglou wants. That's the key, because there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen now. You've got Munn, you've got Lang, you've got Paratici to a degree. You've also got the kind of, I've said it before, the growing influence of Base as an agency at Tottenham Hotspur. Honestly, just look at the amount of people that Base have at Spurs. You know, you've got Postecoglou himself, you've got Sonny, you've got Maddison, you've got Sarr now as well as one of their players. You've got Porro, I said Richarlison, didn't I? And then you've got younger players, even in the academy, like Alfie Devine, Dane Scarlett. I think Alfie Dorrington, maybe. I'm trying to remember if he is as well. But, you know, and that goes a long way. And then you have Base have a big kind of then connection within the club, and they have a good relationship with Levy, and I think they've got a good, from what I understand, a really good relationship with Paratici as well. So it'd be interesting to know whether Johan Lang comes in with a good relationship with them. Talking of relationships within Spurs and former Spurs, I saw Steve Hitchin has been appointed as Director of Football at USG, Unique Sports Group, which is another agency with players at Spurs. They've got Brennan Johnson, Troy Parrott. I feel like they've got Ryan Sessegnon as well. Ryan, I saw quotes while I was away from Postecoglou saying that he's still a long way from coming back. I think the thing with Ryan Sessegnon is just making sure he comes back completely ready. Like I said before, this surgery was to prevent him getting more hamstring issues. So they need to make sure he's 100% right, because, you know, it's unthinkable if it goes wrong again. But yeah, back to the Spurs. There just being so many cooks in the kitchen. And let's be honest, the most important person right now at Tottenham Hotspur is Ange Postecoglou. Make no mistake about it. All the other people that may have their own designs on how much power they want to have at Spurs, whatever they want to do, and you've still got Daniel Levy there as well, of course. It's got to be all about Postecoglou. It's his vision. It's his idea of what he wants his football club and his football team to be like. They have to make sure that they're doing everything to support him. Not push agendas, you know, not push certain agencies' wants or hopes, not individuals' hopes or aims to kind of progress within the club. The best way to do that is to serve Postecoglou's wishes and demands, because let me tell you this, you get the right team out there for Postecoglou, you get the team that Postecoglou wants out on that pitch, Spurs are going to do magnificent things. Honestly, that January window could be the difference between actually having a title challenge in this season. They've got it all in front of them in terms of the lack of fixtures. It's there for them to have a go if they want to. That January transfer window, honestly, you could add some real quality into the centre-back position, maybe in midfield if you were to lose a Højbjerg, or Højbjerg himself. Again, you've got the Africa Cup of Nations with Sarr and Basuma going. That's going to play a big part as well, don't forget. Sonny got the Asian Cup? I'm trying to remember. I think that might even be coming up as well. You know, there's areas where you need to have more strength and depth in this squad. And for Postecoglou to be able to just spread his wonderful tactics out across more players that can do the job. So yeah, that January transfer, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the next couple of months as we kind of start to look at where and who and what is going to be involved. And it's interesting because you do have the Paratici angle to it. Paratici, who I'm still very dubious about the kind of look of it all, but there's no getting away from the fact that, of course, a lot of his signings have ended up coming up trumps. A lot of them who were bought for other managers, of course, coaches, have fitted Postecoglou perfectly, or he's adapted them perfectly. I don't know which way it is. But, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that situation with Paratici. I mean, he's still got, what, 2 years left of his ban. Oh, it's such a ridiculous situation. But, you know, at the moment, he could probably point to the players like Udogie, and Vicario is another player that he's liked in the past as well, who they brought in. Obviously, Leonardo Gabbanini was another one that pushed his qualities. But also this new data-led approach that Johan Lang is really going to be heading up. I don't always get the impression from what I've heard about Paratici, he's as much on the data side of things. Maybe more the old-fashioned scouting, kind of just knowing players and having that almost like a gut feeling, but obviously no doubt would have had to come into the data-led era as well. So I'm intrigued to see how it all meshes together. But that's probably for a later date, a later time. So I'm going to head off, enjoy the rest of my Sunday now, probably sleep through most of it, try and watch some football and some NFL as well. And then I shall be back. I don't know whether I'll do a midweek or not. We'll see how we're going, if there's anything major happens, and whether there's time for a Q&A, we'll see. If not, probably one next Tuesday. I mean, it's up to you. If you want to pop some questions into the comments, by all means, please do. And if there's enough, maybe we do a midweek Q&A. I think Ange's press conference is Thursday this week. I think Guesty told me that. It's going to be on the Thursday, which is unusual for a Monday game. But I think is where it's going to take place. So maybe we do one Wednesday. We'll see how we go. So yeah, pop some questions in. You know, what I like ask. It could be about Spurs. It could be about movies, TV. I love all that sort of stuff. Although I know some people don't like to hear about anything non-Spurs. I get that. But I like to branch out occasionally because I do have other interests. And yeah. So there you go. Right, time to head off before you suddenly get me falling asleep, and that's a very weird end to the video. Not good to be back in one way because I had a lovely holiday with my wife. It was a fantastic time. But good to be back in terms of getting back to watching Spurs, getting back inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next Monday night for what will be a massive game, and getting back to press conferences and, talking to Ange, having been to his homeland, having been to the places he grew up as well. I kind of thought to myself, would it have been really weird if I'd bought a T-shirt from where he grew up, Paran. I'm going to call it Paran, but it's really weird. If you look back at the comments on the last video, even what I said came to pass. Some people there call it Paran, some people call it Paran, some people call it Paran. And in the comments, I had one person who lived there saying that he's not entirely sure how it's pronounced. And I had so many people saying, oh, you're butchering the pronunciation of our suburbs. Here's how it is. Here's how it's meant to be pronounced. And they were all saying it differently. But that's how it is. You know, I live not too far from a place called Great Dunmow, which I'm sure if anyone from another country would call it Dunmow, it could be pronounced in so many different ways. But yeah, back to our original point. I was wondering, would it be weird if I turned up in it with like a T-shirt with the first press conference back with his childhood suburb on it? I think it would, so I didn't go for it. But yeah, it's not like I'm going to rock up to a press conference in a T-shirt anyway. It's not what I do. Making it sound like I'm a very old-fashioned, stuffy professional journalist. But yeah, I think that'd probably be a bit weird. That would really look like I was stalking him. I wasn't stalking him. It just happened to be that I went to places where he grew up. It was booked a year ago, I promise. I didn't book it after he was appointed. Right, really it's time to head off because I'm tired and rambling now. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.